Hi, it's Mike Ferry, and welcome to Mike Ferry TV. The week of January 29th, for goodness sakes, we already have 1 month down out of 12. I hope you've done as well as you want to do. All right, what I've done the last couple of years is I start in January, and I'm going to go through for the next 2 months, probably almost 3, a series of very specific sales ideas that you'll want to pay very close attention to. The first one we're going to work on today is, of course, one of the most critical, and that is the topic of time management. I've outlined a series of points for us to go through on time management. Suggestion, get a permanent notebook that you're going to have for the next, say, 2.5 months. Time management will be number 1. Write down each point. Watch this several times if you have to get the points down, to get them into your mind and get them usable for you. Okay, here is point number 1. Although we already have the first part of the year completed, January 29th, what I'd like you to do, number 1, is determine, by looking at your calendar month after month after month, how many days you're going to actually work in the calendar year 2018. Now, I get this kind of a response. Well, when you say work, what are you referring to? Well, you normally have a work week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, half day, Saturday, whatever that is. How many days are you going to work? You should be working someplace between 245 and 265 days in a normal year. That gives you, of course, your holidays. It gives you your weekends if you want them off. It gives you time to spend time with your family. However, if you're attending Mike Ferry events, those should be under work days. So the key to time management is to target how many days you're going to work. So let's do that first. Now, remember, you should probably have a 10% variance because you're going to have a couple sick days, maybe your kids are sick, you're going to flake out a little bit. These are all called normal. Number 2 is a philosophical yet very specific point. I wrote down, having a precise schedule can solve almost every production problem you have if you choose to follow it. See, there's the catch, okay? The catch is the choosing to follow the schedule. Agents are always creating all these elaborate schedules, and then they put them in their desk drawer, and then I guess they think the desk is going to be better organized than they are. So I wrote something down here, and I want you to listen to it very carefully. The schedule I have should include time for role play and practice, obviously some time for prospecting, some time for lead follow-up, some time for pre-qualifying, some time for preparing for the listing appointment, and obviously going on appointments themselves. So your schedule should be into blocks of time. It should be very, very precise and obviously not very complicated. So each day you should have a space allotted for prospecting, for role play, for pre-qualifying, administration to prepare a pre-listing package. The stronger the schedule, the simpler it is, the more it's in blocks of time, easier it is to then do what it is you're supposed to do. Point number 3, this is a fun one. I wrote down, treat your business, treat your real estate career as if it were a real job, and then operate it as a real job. For example, if you were being paid $100,000 or $150,000 or $200,000 a year, to be a salesperson selling that product, okay, would there be certain expectations of you time-wise? And the answer is yes. Would there be a certain schedule you have to follow? The answer is yes. One of my mentors, Dr. Gunther Kloss, and you've heard me talk about him in the past, did a project for a company in Southern California. This was back in the late 70s, early 80s. And the company had 300 salespeople, and they had this gigantic, almost warehouse-sized room with 300 desks, 300 telephones, 300 file cabinets, 200 computers, and little name tags. And the company was not succeeding. And they were a company where the salespeople truly had to be on the street to accomplish anything. Like a real estate person, I mean, really, how much money do you make sitting in the office? Well, they brought Gunther in as a consultant to find out what was going wrong. So for a couple of days, Gunther would walk in the office, and any given time, there'd be 100, 200, 250 salespeople at their desk on their computers, sounds like a real estate office, on the phone talking to who knows who. So on the first weekend of his job, He asked permission to do whatever it takes to make the company succeed. The company said yes. Over the weekend on Saturday, he had a moving company take all 300 desks out of the warehouse. And what he did then is he had all 300 phones installed as wall phones around the interior of the office. And their name tags put above their telephone, and their computers placed on the floor. They came in on Monday, as you can imagine. They were furious and livid, the salespeople. What is going on? I can't believe that. I mean, who's in charge of this? And Gunther stood in the middle of the floor and said, your job is to go out and talk to people, not sit in the office. Well, this is one of the hard lessons on life. In a real job, selling requires communication, face-to-face conversations. You got to get out of the office. Treat this like a real job and you'll succeed. The fourth thought I wrote down, do a little test, maybe next week. For just 5 days, track your time hour by hour. Take a yellow scratch pad, 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, what'd you do? 9 to 10, what'd you do? 10 to 11, what'd you do? You're going to discover you're probably not doing as much as you believe you're doing. Track your time hour by hour to see if the schedule and what you do actually match up. The fifth point, okay? I believe the schedule you have should be somewhat public, meaning your spouse should have a copy of your weekly schedule, daily schedule. I would give a copy to my sales manager, my broker, so when they see me off schedule, they can say, hey, get back to work. What a great listing tool to actually show a seller. This is the schedule I follow. This is what I'll do to get your home sold. So your schedule should be somewhat public, but the key to a schedule is the accountability that goes with the schedule. Having somebody, if you have an assistant, that assistant should have a copy of your schedule. So accountability and scheduling go hand in hand. Point number 6, okay? You have to remember that that schedule is like a business plan. It's a working document. It's not set in stone. You have to be a little flexible. You're going to have times when things overlap, or you're going to be coming up short on one particular part because you're working on something else. This is called normal, okay? What I want you to understand is I've seen people create schedules that were so inflexible that if they got off the track, their day was ruined. All right, so let's say you're going to be in the office at 7:30, and 7:30 to 8, you're going to return phone calls from the day before. 8 o'clock to 8:30, you're going to do a little administrative work to make sure your files are up to date, etc. 8:30 to 9, you're going to role play and practice with either somebody on the phone or by yourself in the office, your scripts you're going to use. 9 to 12, you're going to prospect. 12 to 1, you're going to have lunch. Well, now if something goes a little wrong between 7:30 and 12, you can't panic, you just have to build flexibility in. The goal is to have a schedule, which is the roadmap to get you from point A to point B to point C and D, or in essence, to get you to the goals you've set, okay? I wrote down point number 7. Following this schedule is simply developing a habit like any other habit you could have. The more often you do it, easier it becomes, the deeper the habit actually becomes part of your life. Scheduling is a habit, just like working out is a habit, just like going to lunch at a certain time is a habit. The stronger you are with the habit, the better the response you get. Okay, point number 8. There's 3 segments to a Mike Ferry trained agent's life. And this is really an important part of any time management we do. A, the morning routine. What do you do from the time you get to the office until, say, 11:30, 12 o'clock? The morning routine. B, afternoon routine. What happens from 12 to 3? And then C, what I call presentation time. Generally, that's going to take place after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. What are you being held accountable to in the morning? What are you being held accountable to in the afternoon? And what are you doing in terms of presentations? The morning routine, point 9, is what we refer to as money time. That is when your energy is probably at its highest, focus is at its best, you're probably a little bit more determined. So money time is, of course, prospecting and lead follow-up time. That's that time from, say, 8:30, 9 o'clock till noon. Now, what's interesting is, why can all the people that are most productive in real estate prospect from 8:30 to 9 until 10:30 to noon, and people that don't do any business can't prospect. I've never understood that. It's a habit. And then point number 10 is the afternoon schedule should be set aside for lead follow-up, previewing property, pre-qualifying buyers and sellers, and then most importantly, going on appointments. So what we're going to do for the next several sessions, probably the next 8 or 10, is take you through some of the more specifics of what it's going to take to build 2018 to be your best year ever. I believe this can be your best year ever. Do you believe the same? I believe you need to be involved with Mike Ferry Coaching. Are you involved? What is the risk involved? Well, Mike, I have to pay you. Of course you do. But what's the benefit? Productivity. We're here to help you produce. Attend our events, go to our downloads, get our scripts, watch Mike Ferry TV, look at the hundreds and hundreds of YouTube videos we have on YouTube for you to watch for free. Participate to produce. See you next week. Thanks.